Today I'm in Rome, Italy, atop the Capitoline Hill overlooking the Roman Forum. It is here that famous historical figures like Julius Caesar and Cicero delivered their speeches, deliberated with the Roman Senate, and lived among the shadows of these buildings. Remember, ancient Romans couldn't read or write. That was a privilege reserved for the noble or elite classes. So they used these monuments to tell their stories, kind of like an ancient picture book. Political and religious leaders carefully designed the buildings to convey a specific message or to tell a specific story. Even though they couldn't read or write, all Romans would have understood some common traits visible amongst the ruins of these buildings and around the city of Rome. In this activity, we are going to explore some of the tropes found in the ancient art and architecture across the city of Rome. A trope is a literary device or a symbol that appears across multiple texts, or in this case, across multiple monuments. This is an important first step in understanding the complex messages embedded in these monuments by religious and political leaders of ancient Roman times. These same techniques are still used in many of our monuments today. Our first trope is the victory goddess, or Victoria. She is the Roman version of the Greek goddess Nike. She's depicted as a winged woman, often wearing a flowing gown and a crown. The victory goddess symbolizes a military victory, winning a battle or a war, and frequently appears on triumphal arches such as the Arch of Constantine. Notice how the similarities between the victory goddess and the angels that appear in religious architecture. The church frequently repurposed pagan symbols. Both Victorias and angels often appear with the panoply, or spoils of war, surrounding them. Since we are examining the Arch of Constantine, let's take a closer look at the purpose of a triumphal arch. Arches like this one, and the Arch of Septimus Severus, located just a few steps away in the Forum, near the Capitoline Hill, were built to commemorate, or remember, an important leader's military victory. This is one of the ways emperors, like Constantine, made sure that the Roman people saw his strength and power, and would be reminded of him whenever they saw the arch. In addition to the victory goddess and the panoply, triumphal arches often show the people who were conquered. Can you think of any famous triumphal arches outside of Rome? Another trope in ancient Roman architecture isn't actually Roman at all. It's Egyptian. The obelisk. Ancient Roman leaders like Caligula had obelisks shipped to Rome on boats and set them up to commemorate their power. Notice how most of the Roman obelisks have a cross placed at the pinnacle. Again, church leaders repurposed symbols of divinity and power to convey a religious message. While we are in St. Peter's Square, let's take a look at the design of St. Peter's Basilica. Does the dome at the top remind you of any other buildings? Hadrian's Pantheon was a temple dedicated to all of the gods. Since the dome seems to float on the top of the building, it is considered the most perfect form in architecture, so it is easy to see why religious leaders would want to have domes featured in their places of worship. Remember, Christian churches serve as monuments dedicated to specific saints or religious figures. In the Pantheon, the center of the dome is open, so when it rains, water falls inside the building. Don't worry, there's a drain placed directly beneath the opening so that it doesn't make too much of a mess. In most church domes, there is an image of a dove in the top of the dome, representing peace and the power of God. The dome links heaven and earth, so the dove is flying up to heaven. Of course, doves are also featured in religious paintings, stained glass, and sculpture, in addition to the tops of domes. The dove was one of the earliest Christian symbols and still represents peace when featured in monuments today. Now it is time for you to explore some of these monuments on your own. Remember the tropes we introduced here as you try to figure out the message of each monument. Can you find any other tropes?